and welcome, willkommen, bienvenue, nach our QI, where tonight, at long last, it's the long-lost show. Let's meet the long-trousered Jimmy Carr. The long-suffering Claudia O'Doherty. The long-awaited Suggs. And a lost cause, Alan Davies. And now for some long-form buzzers. Jimmy goes... That is long form.
And go ahead. I'm not thinking.
Claudia goes...
It's going to be a very long show.
Sometimes we shorten the cues, you'd be surprised. The Suggs goes... And Alan goes... Bitter, very bitter. Now, we haven't been going long, and already I've lost a lavatory. So if you spot it, let me know by playing your spend a penny. Spend a penny, and if you're right, there'll be points. If you're wrong, there may be deductions. It's up to me to decide. But that's your joker. So, how could living in a tiny flat stop you from losing your marbles? Yes, Claudia.
If you had a very small house, you wouldn't be worried that there was a killer in the next room. That's something that I worry about in my house.
Do you?
Yes, but if it was small, very small, one room, I would be fine. I wouldn't be scared at all.
Wouldn't you need a Jodie Foster-style sort of safe...
A panic room.
The
Well, the whole
room.
house is the panic room.
Oh, I guess it would
If
be.
it's a small flat, yeah.
I guess it is, isn't it?
Yes, so how many points do I get for that?
I think you may have come in with a rather optimistic frame of mind here.
You watch too many of those horror films where it's always the phone call
They're
came
calling
from in the
inside
house.
Yeah. Well, if they're not in the house, they can't get you. Your horror movies sound fine.
There's so many genres, and sometimes there's the cabin in the woods genre, the high school ones. And
There's camp ones.
Camp ones, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, not camp in the sense of...
No.
Camp horror would be quite fun, wouldn't it? Ooh! Ooh! Oh, you gave me a start.
I think you've created a genre right there.
I think I may.
Or something just stabbed me in the back.
Dear. Behave, all of you. Now, let's return to the question, which was, Suggs?
It was, why would you be less likely to lose your marbles in a small flat? Apart from the fact if you're playing marbles, there's less distance for them to go.
That's a very good thought. We're actually being figurative here. It's a very common thing that happens when you've gone into a room and you've forgotten what you've gone into it for. You know?
Yeah, I've had that in... I had that at the Hammersmith Apollo once. Get on stage and went, what have I... oh, jokes, right.
There was a study at Notre Dame, they call it in America, University, which discovered that the key thing that makes you forget is crossing a threshold. In other words, going from one room to another. If you have a one-room flat, it's unlikely to happen. But there's something that happens in the brain. It may be an evolutionary thing when you move from one sort of landscape, from a thicket to open country, as it were, the equivalent of a threshold, that for some reason you no longer need the same tools to cope with that particular environment or habitat, and so we somehow seem to forget it.
But, I mean, for instance, if you're in B&Q, that's one big room, isn't it? I mean, you don't
Yes.
cross any thresholds, but...
That's true. When you go in there, you do forget everything. I meant to get those raw plugs and the other
forget
things.
the day,
the butt plugs.
The reason why...
Where the car is, who you're married to.
Why you haven't killed yourself earlier.
Suggs. Let's not go down that.
No, I'm just saying,
No,
it's
yeah, I
one
do
big
know.
room. I mean, it is a big room, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, crossing a threshold makes you lose your thread. What's the world's longest living thing? Suggs.
A giant redwood.
Good answer. Not correct, but good. They do live a very, very long time.
There was
and it's
a
not a
clam.
klaxon. A clam.
A clam that some scientists killed last year that was 500 years old.
That some scientists
Oh.
killed.
Yeah, it was an accident. But they were like, guys, great news, we found the oldest thing in the world. We killed it, but it's really old.
And it was over 500 years old.
This is well over 500 years old. Possibly immortal.
Is that picture a clue?
There is some there, I think. Well, you can see...
Should we have a klaxon? Do you want a klaxon?
What are you going
Is
to
it
say?
going to be...
Brucey. Got a bit of fun. Obviously, if you're watching this,
Love, respect,
yeah,
everything.
What a great
we loved
man.
you, Brucey.
We won!
If you're still hanging on, well,
Stop it!
Lichen!
Yes is the right answer, lichen. But no, it's nothing to do with the lavatory, but I don't count that as playing it. It is lichen. Lichen, there it is. How many forms of life make up lichen, as it were?
well, I don't even understand the question. How many forms of
Well,
life?
you know, sometimes you get symbiosis, which creates what seems to be one thing, but is in fact made up of other things.
Okay, good.
Things living together, symbiotic. And this is two organisms. It's fungus and algae.
Fungus
living
and algae
yeah.
living together.
Yeah, that's right.
What is it? We're making
Well,
the
one
worst ever
provides-
sitcom.
The fungus...
They're living together, but they don't get on. All this.
fungus, the bogeyman, and algae from
I've
Biggles.
got ebony and ivory in my head now. Fungus and
Well, the fungus provides a cosy environment, and the algae has the equipment to photosynthesize. And they live happily together on the stones and in
And that's the
incredible
oldest
environments.
thing?
Well, there's 9,000 years old one in Lapland, probably the world's oldest living thing, so far as we know. They're everywhere. They're the dominant vegetation on 8% of the world's surface. Not just they exist there, they are the dominant vegetation. They can be very tasty. There's Pete Townsend. You know, you remember Pete.
Indeed.
No, I don't mean Pete Townsend. That can't be right.
Go in another room, see if you remember.
Pete Waterman.
Pete Waterman. That's two very
Well,
different animals.
that's a very different set of jokes in my head. I've got very little in that
Neither of
category.
them acceptable.
Dear, oh dear.
So, Pete Waterman, his hobbies.
Model railway collecting.
Model railways. Very
Yes,
good.
yes.
Where might you use lichen or...
All over his face.
There's a kind of lichen that's known as caribou moss. So it's a moss-like lichen, and that's it there. And it's used by model railway enthusiasts for what?
Who put
Grass.
To create grass.
Not grass.
Bushes.
Bushes and trees.
Hang on a second. Can we just take a moment to look at
little
that photo
furry
and ask
green
what
wigs.
the hell is going on there? It feels to me like a zoo with an enclosure that's just gone. Stick them in together. There's been some budget cuts. They can work it out. Why not put them in with them?
Yes, you can.
A lot of those guys need water.
Well, it's very near the coast, as you can see.
How is that near the coast?
It's slithering down, all the little water's running down to the sea.
Look at the poor fat fella at the back. Look at him. He's just stranded there going, well...
Hang on.
It does look a bit
Hello, this
odd.
feels wrong. Hello. I shouldn't be in with a deer. Hello.
The photographer is giving his usual lie, which is just one more, just one more.
Hello, the deer have drunk all the water.
They are reindeer.
Come on, that's bloody good. Reindeer.
Lichen, however you want to say it, seems to be no clear consensus as to whether it is lichen or lichen. But as the great performance poet Rory Motion put it, you call it lichen, I call it lichen, let's call the whole thing moss. Now, what's long begins with L and gets you sleepy, horny and pregnant? Sugsy.
Lunch.
It's pretty true.
You know the pet name I've got for my penis?
Terrible.
Is it Larry?
Is it Larry?
Meet Larry.
I would think it's probably Lancelot.
It's actually called Lancelot because of all the boils. Hey, they booked me. What were they hoping for? So it's horny, sleepy.
Horny, sleepy, pregnant. Yeah.
Is it? It sounds like Rohypnol.
Lying down.
lying down won't kind of make you feel all those things.
Yeah.
This is food stuff.
That makes you pregnant.
Leeks, good. You're in the right area. You're in the vegetable garden. That's where I want you to be.
Legumes.
Lettuce.
Lettuce is the right answer. Lettuce.
Oh, look at that.
Whoa.
Oh, Stephen. This is a family show. Take it away.
Imagine if those Inuits were here now. I forget the lichen.
What,
I would ride that like a stolen bike. Who gets horny looking at
Are
lettuce?
you now pregnant?
Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he described its opiate qualities, as did Beatrix Potter in Peter Rabbit.
Soporific.
Soporific was exactly
Indeed.
the word she used. Very good.
Yes.
Points for that. And they very nearly ended up in Mrs. McGregor's rabbit pie as a result of falling asleep. Anyway, yes, lettuce is slightly soporific making. However, it's been bred less and less so. But wild lettuce in really strong quantities, rather than, Claudia, making you feel sleepy, it makes you feel
Horny.
horny. Horny and bouncy.
Right,
And
bouncy.
therefore, it's a kind of stimulant, which is a tryptophan alkaloid, which is the same as found in cocaine. And so it can give you a bit of a kick.
I'm getting down the greengrocers.
Well, they did try and sell it in America under names like Lopium with an L, apostrophe, and Lettucine, but most are made from ordinary garden lettuce. It has to be wild lettuce that you find. And it shouldn't be fed to rabbits because it upsets their tummies, actually. Victorian picnickers wrapped lettuce around what for picnics?
Their penises.
Meat.
That's if in doubt. It's going to be a knob. It is a knob. The word knob is used of this
Butter?
substance. Yes, that's absolutely right. They'd wrap it around butter to keep it cool. Yeah, there
What
it is.
do they
There you
wrap
see.
around their penises?
And don't new mothers put cabbage leaves in their bras to cool their cracked, sore nipples?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Is that
the
true?
thing? Yeah.
Cracking of the nipple is not a laughing matter.
No, I wouldn't want.
Not laughing matter. Ouch. Doesn't make the baby any less hungry.
And is it any easier if you express into a machine, or is that worse?
Well... I don't know all the details.
No. You agreed to do two-thirds of the nappy work. Quite a lot of the driving around in the car when
I
it's
just remember
screaming.
the... Ah! Oh! Ah!
But it's a great way for new mums to express themselves.
Right. Anyway, lettuce is good for all sorts of things, except rabbits, apparently. What's the world's longest experiment?
QI.
That's certainly possibly the world's longest failed experiment.
I definitely had a couple of, double physics on a Wednesday afternoon that dragged.
I know what you mean. This is really quite long for one experiment. If I tell you when it started, may give you an idea of how old it is. It was started in 1840, at least that's what we think. It may actually have begun 15 years earlier than that.
And is it still... It's not
It's still going, yeah.
I think they've got to just call a day on that. Our homework is going to be late.
Oh,
That's all
is
we know
it
for
curing
sure.
the common cold?
No, in fact, I said it was a pile. Does that help you?
Oh, it's not like continental drift or something, is it?
No. The word peel, what does it mean in French?
Oh, peel.
Peel. What, yes, well, in English, how would we say that? Oh, yeah. Battery. French call the battery a peel, a pile, a heap, a stack. And this one is in Oxford in a scientific laboratory and has been there since 1840. And as you can see, below it are two domes and a clanger. And when one clanger hits a bell, it causes a charge to make it go and hit the other one. It's rung 10 billion times since it was started.
Oh, it's annoying for the neighbours, isn't it?
It's incredibly quiet because it's inside a double bell jar. But the actual battery won't run out for 350 years, they think.
350 years. Could these people get in touch with Apple? Because my phone runs out, like, about every hour.
I don't think you need worry. There's some good scientists in Israel who've come up with an extraordinary, almost you might call biological battery, which they've demonstrated the concept by charging a phone in 45 seconds, fully charging it. Really very impressive. We're ready to go to market in a couple of years.
I'm very impressed with 350-year battery life.
It is damn good, isn't it? But it's a tiny amount that's needed in order to operate.
They could have done something more interesting with it, though. I mean, you say what you want about the Duracell Bunny. It's fun to watch.
That's true.
It has a lovely clang and it goes, something.
So, that's the Clarendon Dry Pile, the world's longest scientific experiment. It's been quietly ringing bells in the city of dreaming spires for 174 years. What use is half a copy of the Daily Telegraph? That's a very pleasing
Makes your
photograph.
butt look good.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? That is a fine, fine pair of mates.
See, footballers used to put magazines down the back of their socks in the days when you were allowed to tackle from behind.
Well, that's interesting. So it stopped getting hacked.
When they
Yeah.
got kicked in the back of
Yeah.
the legs.
Is it? Well, they used to put newspaper. Fish and chips were
Yes.
sold in newspaper, and it was because it was the cheapest way to get a clean wrapper.
Absolutely. But I'm going to draw a line now because you're going to get it just by default. It's the spend a penny question. The lavatorial answer.
So half a copy of the.
Daily Telegraph.
Wow, I mean that's a lot.
I know what
going
you're
on there.
thinking of. You're immediately thinking of essuyant. You're thinking of wiping, aren't you? That's not the answer. It was used until the 1970s as a test, as an index to test.
Oh,
Well, I suppose if it could flush
Yes.
it away.
the length of time spent on the...
No, not that. That's a very good.
No, but if you put it down the toilet, if you could flush that away,
If you
would
could
say
flush
that-
it, a lavatory had to be powerful enough to be able to flush down half a Daily Telegraph.
That's quite a lot to flush away, isn't it, actually? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to flush, isn't
It is. It is. And
Hell of a
it's
lot of
Sometimes when you
shit
go
in
to an
Daily
old
Telegraph.
building.
very good. Nice one.
Not a unanimous round of applause.
Yeah, not unanimous. They now use a synthetic sludge stimulant.
What's a read?
On the Daily Mail.
Yeah, that's the Daily Mail. The synthetic sludge stimulant is a mixture of yeast, water, seed husks, peanut oil, miso paste and shredded tissue, otherwise known as fake poo. Unilever developed it for their Domex Toilet Academy, which is in India, and they hope to be able to install 24,000 new lavatories in India for World Toilet Day 2015.
It's a very important thing, though, isn't it? It's like a third of the
Oh,
world's
God,
population
yes.
don't have a flushing toilet.
Absolutely. In India, a staggering 90% of Indians own a mobile phone, but only 50% have flush loos.
Priorities, and it's all priorities.
According to insurance claims, a staggering 800,000 mobile phones are accidentally flushed down the loo in Britain each year.
Well, at least they don't have that problem.
Exactly.
Just needed a packet of vegetarian sausages. Take it from me. That
Really?
would probably be the closest poo replica you could find. But they're absolutely delicious.
I'm sure they are. Anyway, what would you do with the world's longest corkscrew?
Undo the world's most convivial bottle of wine.
Ah, exactly. Perfect.
I would make a sex toy for pigs.
Because you know about the fact exactly that
Pigs got a little
a
corkscrew.
little curly corkscrew
Yes, yes.
of a knob.
Not just pigs as well.
Oh, is it not for taking out
Duck.
plugs?
Been looking for someone who goes the other way. So this is a helical structure. It's not really a corkscrew, but it's the longest that occurs in nature. And I have one. Yes, I have one. I don't have one growing about my person. I have one on my person, as it were. No, it's on my person.
I can't believe you've been so blasé about this. You've killed a unicorn. You're a monster.
Oh, J.K. Rowling gave me permission. It's not a unicorn, though some believe the unicorn myth sprang
Oh,
from
is
this
it the
creature.
narwhal?
Narwhal! Absolutely right. And
Very good.
I'm pretty sure that's made up.
Yeah.
What is a narwhal?
This guy.
there it is.
What?
I know. Isn't it
No
astonishing? I think it's been glued on by someone at the Natural History Unit in Bristol, but it is a real creature. It's a whale, and the word narwhal means dead body, nar, in Norse, because it's a rather grey, unappetizing-looking flesh. But what do you think it is? Do you think it's horn or tooth or what?
I imagine it's hair. It's always hair, isn't it?
In this case, it isn't. It is actually a tooth. It's a tooth without enamel. It is a single tooth that bursts out of it. I mean, it's phenomenal. And nobody quite knows, A, why it's corkscrewed, and what it's for. The assumption people make, because it's on the male, must be, therefore, that it's for fighting other males for the right to mate. But nobody has ever observed to... Oh, well, hang on. No, they rub them together as a sort of bonding thing, so it's not fighting. They don't hurt
Rub them
each other.
together as a bonding sort of thing.
Yeah. They've been to private school.
You keep on telling yourself that, Steve. Come on.
It's the only way they ever get to chew.
In
They
fact,
get a grate between them.
They're
and
very
kind
much
of-
the Ken Dodd of the
they are, aren't they? They actually eat their food by sort of hoovering it up and just inhaling it virtually. They're not krill eaters like a lot of the larger whales. But it's fascinating that a creature like that, you know, we think we cover the world with our natural history documentaries and so on, the whole channel's devoted to it, and people go out in boats and they quietly watch things, but we still just don't know what that's for. And that's, I think it's rather nice when there's a mystery about animals. Yeah. We're very grateful to Raf Vald, who lent us his snooker, Q, and...
maybe they are just attractive to the female.
It may be
whale.
that. Yeah,
maybe
it may
like,
just be
I
that.
like your one.
Yes, anyway, what human endurance record gets broken every 8 months?
Pregnancy.
Just stop and think now. How is that an endurance record? Every 8 months on average, the world's oldest person dies.
Something like that.
Brilliant, Claudia, absolutely right. Every 8 months on average, yeah, the world's oldest person dies. So at the moment, there may be the oldest person in the world somewhere in, I don't know, Kazakhstan or somewhere. There are certain places where...
Japan.
Well, Japan is...
Always Japan.
Yeah, Japan, Costa Rica, nearly always very near the sea. Sardinia is another place.
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, maybe. Who's that? Do you remember her? She's a very extraordinary exception who stayed the oldest person for a very long time. She died in 1997, aged 122 and 164 days, so 122 and a third, and the rest. She was a smoker, and she held pole position for more than 2 years. She died in 1997. She knew Van Gogh.
And Bruce Forsyth.
She was a fabulous figure. She said, "The only wrinkle I have, I'm sitting on." But terrifically humorous and extraordinary woman. And her name was Jeanne Calment. And that's exactly where she lived, around Arles. Extraordinary. And lots of olive oil, obviously. That seems to be good. There are parts of the world where people seem to live unusually long, and they're called blue zones, and you can see them there. Loma Linda, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Sardinia, Icaria, which is where Icarus is said to have dropped into the sea, and Okinawa. All of them by the sea, so maybe seafood is a good thing, and omega-3s which come from... Sorry, am I in the way?
No, I'm just checking Australia.
Oh, no, I'm afraid...
Doesn't look good, doesn't
no,
it?
right there, no.
I'll tell you where a great place to live is the sea.
Yes.
Very blue. Really feels like you could last there.
Yeah.
High land seems to be holding us back.
So anyway, there we are with age. Someone breaks the world's oldest living person record every 8 months, which brings us stumbling into the long-lost land of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, if you would, please. Now, what colour is the dark side of the moon?
Well, you can't see it, Stephen, so no one really knows.
No, that's not true at all. The dark side of the moon is the part which is dark when it's
That
there's a
dreadful
new
Pink
moon.
Floyd album that won't go out the charts.
Absolutely, that lasted
thing, yeah.
a very long time, sold 50 million copies and counting. But you can see a horned moon or a new moon, you can see the sliver and then the dark bit. It reflects, what does it reflect? What, it is light. We'll show you a bit of horned moon here. There's a horned moon, and there's a shine on it that comes as a reflection of the Earth.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of blue, but it's not really blue. It's turquoise, according to the Mauna Loa Lab, the observatory in Hawaii. So it has earth shine, which is turquoise. So that's what the colour of the dark side of the moon is, in case you wanted to know.
Lovely.
Very nice.
At least I say the moon, but how many moons does the Earth have?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Most definitely only one.
Oh, dear.
Of course.
It had to be that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it is the moon. I think I'm with him.
Yeah.
They've changed
They call it...
The
one and only moon.
Well, the moon's around, clearly around
The
other
moon
planets.
in June, all
Jupiter
the
has-
songs, come on, they're all
There
about the
are
moon.
lots of orbiting objects, aren't there? Some of them are really...
There are lots of
far
orbiting
away.
objects, yeah. We gave an argument there were hundreds last time to confuse you, but there's another argument which seems quite compelling and interesting, certainly,
the size of that
which
one
is
was
that there are
reason.
none. Which is to say that the moon is not a moon. The moon actually
Right.
We just
qualifies...
discovered it's turquoise, and now it's not there.
It qualifies... It's there, but it maybe qualifies as a planet. A wanderer, a planet, because...
Well, the clangers lived on it, didn't they? We know that. Saturn and all that.
Well, in order to be a planet, the International Astronomical Union in 2006 laid down definitions. These were the ones that booted out Pluto, I think. So it has to orbit the sun.
Right.
It has to be massive enough for its own gravity to make it round. It has to have cleared its neighbourhood of smaller objects. The moon comfortably fulfills the first two. On the third, it makes more sense to say that the Earth and moon together have cleared their neighbourhood. The Earth certainly hasn't cleared the moon, so they are a binary system, like binary stars.
Like lichen.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a genuine possibility some people... And the sun's gravitational effect on the moon is more than twice that of the Earth's. So we don't have nearly as much gravitational effect. So there is a good reason to suspect that we are actually in possession of a fellow planet.
It goes round the Earth.
The Earth orbits the moon as well.
What?
Yeah.
Is it?
I know. Go use an asteroid. So we've been consistently inconsistent about this, but tonight we're saying that the Earth doesn't have a moon at all. So there. That was a slightly mean question to end on, so let's have a liquid lark. I've got some liquid here in the form of our very own QI water, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is pour some... I'm going to not use the sporty... Oh, God, I can't open it. I'm going to use the sporty bit. There we go.
That's as much exercise as you get, is it?
Yeah.
So
what we do is we flatten this card on it, and we turn it upside down, and I want you to try and do this if you can. And, oh, God, please work. There you go. Holds up. So you should be able to try that.
Terrific. Terrific fun.
Yeah.
This could not possibly end in tears.
No, try it, honestly.
Go on and on.
You just
Okay, so-
turn it
Go on. What? Where? And...
And do you want to know something really extraordinary about this? Watch. This should work.
I'll leave it out.
Shut up. Shut the front door.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
You're actually made of magic. Okay,
Not bad, is it?
Let's have a look. Oh!
That's why we're doing these.
Well, hang on a second. I know you know J.K. Rowling, but how's that done?
On that water bomb shell, at long last, it is time for the scores. And it's pretty exciting. In first place, it's Claudia with +9.
Oh, my God.
In second place, with -8, is Alan Davis. In third place, with -16, it's Suggs. Which means our runaway loser with -37 is Jimmy Carr. And this is why. It's good night from Claudia, Jimmy, Suggs, Alan and me. And I'll leave you with the last words of the great hotelier, Conrad Hilton. Leave the shower curtain on the inside of the tub. Those were his dying words. Good night.